good afternoon, and welcome to Table Talk with Brenda Perryman. I'm Brenda Perryman, and we have a wonderful show for you today, a conversational show. And I encourage you to call in if you'd like, and the numbers are 313-868-0342, 868-0351, and 868-4336. A lot of controversy, but first, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts, because the ladies are back in town.
Hi. Oh, good afternoon. I'm Cheryl Ajamu, CEO of the Ajamu Group. We produce the multicultural media luncheon during the Detroit Auto Show.
And she's bringing Stephen A. Smith in, and he's going to call the show.
Yes,
Yay.
we're working on that.
Dr. Rose in full bloom, clinical psychologist and owner of Transcendent Life Counseling Services.
Good afternoon. I am attorney Tiffany McEvans, and I'm also an adjunct professor at Thomas M. Cooley Law School.
And it's so good to have an attorney here because we always do things that sometimes, well, we have to check with the law. Well, as is our tradition, I read a little bit from today in African American history in the city of Detroit, and it's from the book written by our other co-host, Mr. Ken Coleman. And today, November 15th in 2002, the award-winning documentary film Standing in the Shadows of Motown is released. It chronicles the life and times of the uncredited and largely unheralded session musicians known as the Funk Brothers, the men who provided the sound of Motown records from 1959 till the early 70s. It is produced and directed by Paul Justman and narrated by award-winning actor Andre Braugher. Early members included band member Joe Hunter and Earl Van Dyke, who played the piano, James Jamerson, bass guitar, Benny Papazita Benjamin, and Richard Pistol Allen, drums, Paul Reiser, and I've been trying to get him on my show, trombone, Robert White, and you know Robert White is the one who he's the one who invented that. Of course, it sounds much better on My Girl. Eddie Willis and Joe Messina, guitar, Jack Ashford, tambourine, percussion, vibraphone, and marimba. Jack Brokensa, vibraphone, marimba, and Eddie Bongo Brown. Those were great, he was a percussionist. Those were great musicians who helped to form that wonderful Motown sound that we all love and still lives. That's what classic music is. Classic music still lives. Also, just a reminder, on Sunday, I have my book signing, and there's a trunk fashion show at Silver Fox Furs. Silver Fox Furs is located right on the 2nd and the Boulevard, right across from the Fisher Theater. It's going to be in the atrium. If you plan to come, please RSVP at 313-872-4260 or 313-319-2343. And it's going to be a great show for you. In fact, one of our co-hosts, Chris Sumrall, he's going to be modeling in the show also. And some of you might have seen my morning show with proprietor Richard Welch, who brought some beautiful furs on the show and got me tempted to get well, he has a layaway. I am sure he doesn't mind a 10-year plan, you know. No, I'm just kidding. But it's going to be entertaining, and we're going to have wine and cheese and all that stuff. So it's going to be a great day. This is this Sunday from 3 to 6. All right. We have a little bit of news, a lot of news, and a lot of discussion, really. And one of the things, and I'm going to be doing poetry from my book, Mood Swings and Magic Carpet Rides. Now, back to the news. Bob Ford, they call him Mayor McCrack. He's in Toronto. He doesn't want to step down from city council, but for what I heard today, city council said what, Rose?
Well, USA Today just indicated breaking news that he's been stripped of all his power. I don't know exactly what that entails, but we know this has been a battle for the last few weeks.
Well, you think about it. The man has admitted to smoking crack. He smoked marijuana, We just read that he had a 40-ounce bottle of vodka and drank half of that. Obviously, he has some kind of problem, don't you think?
Well, it sounds that way, definitely. And he's in the public eye. For him to be in the public eye, and you know, all eyes are typically on individuals in these positions, and to, as the article just said, to have what was alleged to be an escort and drinking half a bottle of vodka, then going to a bar and snorting cocaine. There's obviously some substance abuse issues going on
And
here.
he had some tirades too, didn't
Oh,
he?
yeah. Well, we've seen them. You know, they've been filmed, the tirades with the city council. And his brother apparently is on city council, too. So,
His brother's on city council.
so you have you have a lot of different issues going on. You have denial with this individual, because I know we were discussing earlier what
Not
were some
denial like in Egypt,
No,
but
of the, with
denial.
a capital D, denial, going on with him, and just denying the fact that there's even a problem with him. And he even tried to, another defense mechanism in addition to denial, he tried to throw some other council members under the bus by pointing them out and saying, you know, you're going to tell me you never smoked marijuana? You know, I mean, really calling their names out. Then he says, but I'm not going to call their names out because I'm not a rat. So you have denial. You have him projecting onto other issues. And then you have the brother. The issue with the brother, he's enabling his brother. Instead of insisting that this gentleman go and get whatever help that he potentially can get, the brother is standing up for him. And we understand families, but at the same time, you know, wrong is wrong, and breaking a crime as a mayor is as anyone
the
is
law.
breaking the law is a big deal for anyone. But when you are a mayor of a major international city such as Toronto, you really have to look at this and wonder, you know, how much longer this fiasco is going to go on.
So what do you think? People in positions like that, why do they do really careless things?
You want me to take that too?
Temptation. I don't know. Maybe
It's-
it's temptation.
But
or
don't you
just
think
a-
about your position?
It's a feeling of just being untouchable sometimes when you get that power, and people in power who have been knocked off of their perch will tell you this, those who have gained insight about their behavior, that you get to a certain level and you just feel invincible, you feel untouchable, you feel like you're above the law. And then there's an element of narcissism that goes in where it's like, you know, I'm not, I don't have to be held to the same standards and rules and laws as the everyday person because I'm in this position of authority, this position of power.
Tiffany, what do you think?
I agree completely. We have to understand that just because you're in a position of power, everyone is human and we all make mistakes. But I agree with Dr. Rose that when you are in a position of power, you get a sense of being invincible, or that, you know, the same laws don't apply to you. And I think that's the situation that's going on here. But we see every day in the media, even with actors, how the same type of crimes and things that happen to actors, they don't receive the same types of penalties as the average citizen.
That's true, and I saw that Miley Cyrus, well, that was in a different country. They said she lit up a joint right there on stage. I think she is, I don't think too highly of her. But, you know, I just finally saw the, was it TV One on Kwame Kilpatrick?
I haven't seen it yet.
The Celebrity Crime Files.
Yes.
Celebrity Crime Files. And it seemed like in the beginning he was a media darling, and then he goes on to be not a media darling. He started batting the media away and things like that. And, you know, when I saw I think I need the phone over here. I just thought about that. If somebody calls, I can't get the phone. I forgot to bring the phone. My producer's off, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm into old habits, so.
Yeah, he like became enemy number one with the media.
Yeah,
We
from
watched
being a
that.
media darling. And sometimes you wonder, people think they're bigger than the game, and nobody is bigger than the game. Athletes have done that too, haven't they?
Yes.
Somebody said, for example, Ray Lewis parades around and like he's big stuff, but Ray Lewis has some issues, has had many, many issues. And I don't know why people get glorified, but people get some money or they get some fame. And sometimes they think that they're invincible.
And entitled to. And honestly, Brenda, that's something I think anyone of power has to battle against, honestly, because there's a certain amount of just it's prestige that goes in and self-elevation that goes with being in a position of power. That's why it's important to have people around you who are going to keep you grounded, because that can happen to any one of us. Honestly, it can. But you have to have good people, people that you trust, who have a sense of integrity within themselves, who are going to, remind you
Well,
that
Tiffany, don't you feel that people enable people who are famous?
Yes, definitely. Just in this case, as Dr. Rose was just stating, the brother is an enabler. Instead of recognizing that his actions and behavior is wrong and that he needs to get the appropriate treatment, he's enabling it.
Yeah, and remember, enabling, well, Dr. Rose, tell the audience about enabling.
Well, enabling is preventing let me just say prolonging the inevitable. When a person has any type of issue, be it substance abuse or whatever it may be, there is a pattern that typically happens where it will begin to affect their social interactions, affect their occupational functioning, affect their relationship functioning. But then there are people in their lives where they're going to prevent that from happening. So when they fall down and they don't have the money to get the drugs, they can or the alcohol or whatever the issue may be. It's not just enabling doesn't just occur with substance abuse issues. They have family members who feel, I can't let this happen to this person. You can't let a person stay down. I'm going to help them. And so what they don't realize that they're doing is prolonging the illness,
Right.
And preventing that person from getting healthy,
Right.
from
We
healing.
have a call on the line. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Queens.
Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Who are we speaking with?
You're speaking with Brother Jeff.
Hi again.
I have to piggyback on what the doctor said when she said that you have to have people around you to keep you grounded. And she's absolutely right. When you go into what happened to Kwame, as you said, Kwame was the darling. In other words, we a lot of times don't see the unseen hands or the conspiracies. And Kwame went from Jump Street basically because they knew his gifts, and they watched those with gifts and talents, and they used them to their advantage. And so Kwame,
Absolutely.
they saw him up in Lansing. They saw his gift of gab. They saw him. They saw he had the potential, but his potential either was good for them or it might be an enemy to them. And so they used Kwame to their benefit. And they actually understand Kwame, a good person. Don't take nothing from him for what he got caught up in. He still was a good human being, but he got caught up like many of us will if we're not grounded, as the sister said.
Absolutely.
And it's so easy because what do we want in life? In other words, they make us offers. What do you want? You want your name in lights? What do you want? You want to be in front of a camera? What do you want? You want a white woman? You want a white man? Whatever you want. You want a new car? What do you want?
Well, what do
And
you
that's the
think?
thing about
What do you
politics.
think, Brother Jeff, about Allen Iverson? He had millions and millions and millions of dollars. People were around him all the time. I think it's the same thing. And I mean, his arrogance.
Absolutely right.
Yes, he was. In fact, from high school, they catered to him. It started young.
Absolutely right, Queen.
Well, thank you so much for calling in, and you're absolutely right too. When people know people have a gift, sometimes people latch on to them, and it's the wrong kind of people.
And you
And it
have
makes you more than what you think you are.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
yes, yes.
Life, understand, and death is for all of us. And you have to do the best you can for the life that you're blessed with to help many as you possibly can before you have to exit this life. That's the way life is. Life is, it's a gift from God. And whatever you're blessed with is not to build you up, but it's to serve those that are beneath you. And we don't do that as a people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in with that wisdom.
You all have a blessed day.
You too.
Thank you. You too.
Brenda, that brings to mind a story I heard several years ago. Beyonce was sharing about when she, I guess, got a little too high for her britches and a little diva tour. And there was one of, the people that worked for her, and her bag was there, and the woman didn't pick it up quick enough, or she wasn't moving quick enough, and she kind of got snippy with her and said her mom put her in her place and said, you get over there, you pick up that bag,
Okay.
So having people, again, in your life, you look at, like we were talking about the young stars, you look at the Lindsay Lohans, both her parents are repeatedly arrested on substance abuse charges, driving under the influence and all that stuff. She doesn't have good people in her life, the
Right.
Justin Biebers, the Chris Browns. You have to have people in your life that's going to tell you when you are not walking in a straight line.
The sad thing about Chris Brown is he started off with what seemed to be such a nice guy.
He was only 14, so we didn't get a chance to really see, this guy as a man.
Cheryl, have you ever gotten a chance to meet Chris?
No, I haven't met Chris Brown, but I have met some celebrities, and you can kind of tell the ones that in their entourage, there's somebody that kind of keeps them in check, and then you can kind of tell the ones that, everybody just does whatever they ask. Because, it's just the way they treat just people that are there to help them, whether it's the doorman or the person checking them in at the hotel or the person carrying their bags. It's a difference, and you can kind of tell what kind of home training people have as well, too.
Well, I happened to be in the company of Snoop Dogg one evening just before he did a concert. We spoke briefly, and I know then they start calling him. It's time to come off because we were all in green room. And just before he went on stage, one of his entourage took out a joint and gave it to him so he could just, take this big drag of it prior to going on stage. And I mean, these people, there was no one there to say, man, come on. Luckily, well, he still has to this day, Puff Puff Pass Tuesdays. I think it's Tuesdays. I mean, but that's still, no, serious.
What is that? I've
That
never heard
means
of that.
Puff Puff.
Past Tuesday?
Pass the joint. Puff Puff pass the joint.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
thought maybe that
mean,
was a special
but-
night at a club.
No,
Tuesday night. Puff
No,
Puff
because
Pass
he
Tuesday.
will tweet that on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Puff Puff Pass Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday or Thursday, one of the two. But I saw people around him really, really enabling him so much. And one of the people was his daddy who worked on the crew. His daddy was from Detroit. But when Snoop became popular, he went out there and started working with him and working on the crew. And we talked for a while. But I've seen this, and I've been around a lot of celebrities who I've seen just be catered to by hangers-on. And these are sideline sitters who sit around these people who get money from them and everything. And that happened to MC Hammer, remember?
Yeah, he lost everything.
He lost everything. I mean, goodness gracious. But I mean, that's a hard lesson learned, and hopefully people learn the lesson. And this mayor needs to be put to the side. Okay, national news real quick. President Obama has apologized for the health care issues, and he says he's going to, the people who got their insurance policies canceled, they'll have another year on those policies. They're trying to get everything straight.
Yeah.
I think it's, and they are really martyring him. I mean, taking him through the coals for this, excuse me.
Well, they have something now that's really tangible because it is screwed up that they can use, so they're going to run with it. But you think about how many generations and how long decades they've been trying to pass this universal health care bill. It's not surprising that you're going to be met with some just unexpected technical difficulties. So
I mean, big
yeah.
technical difficulties.
And on, I don't know if you guys saw President Obama's press conference, but he brought up a point about when he came into office, there were problems with, getting loans, filling out student loan process on the internet. And they, it took them a while to kind of work that process out. So it takes a minute to kind of get things where you get the glitches out. I think they just are looking for something to complain about. When you've got a program that big, you're going to have problems. It's just like if you're rolling out a new model of a vehicle. I mean, or a
Glitches.
new phone.
Yeah.
You're going to have glitches. It seems to be escalated because it is such a big program.
And because it's President Obama.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Cheryl, we did mention that you got to see him up close.
Oh, you did? Oh,
I mean,
okay.
we didn't tell the audience.
Oh,
Tell the
okay.
audience what happened since.
Okay. I was in D.C. for an event that my client Uptown Magazine was having with Buick, and we decided to stay an extra day and do some of the museums. Well, this is the same day that the lady drove up to the Capitol building. Everything was shut down. I mean, everything. We tried to go, and all the museums were closed. So we were kind of disheartened. So we had
It was the shutdown was going on too, wasn't it?
no, the museums were open up until that
Oh,
moment
okay.
when
They shut
that,
everything down.
and then they shut the whole city down. So we had a driver who dropped us off and said, well, maybe you can go take some pictures in front of the White House. So he drops us off at the corner and says, okay, just walk straight down the street, and then I'll meet you on the other side, take your pictures, and then, we'll take you back to the hotel. So we're complaining, like, we come here, we can't see anything. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these Secret Service people come up to us and just put their hand out and say, we need you to stand right here. So it's like 6 people. We didn't know each other. So we were like, oh, somebody else is shooting. We were like, we're in trouble. So 2 minutes later, this lady standing next to me said, maybe somebody's coming. And I was like, oh, who could be coming? And out walks President Obama and Joe Biden. They're just walking down the street.
How cool is that?
So we're screaming like teenagers, trying to get our phones out. So he comes, like, we're on the sidewalk. He's walking in the middle of the street. They got the Secret Service. And so, we were like, hey. We said, like the black girls say. We was like, hey.
Hey.
And he looked at us like, so they were like, come over. And he started walking toward us.
Oh, wow.
So we were just jumping up and down. So it was a lady with a baby right in front of us. So he bent down, and ironically, the lady who was the child's mother was standing with us, and there was another lady standing there. He thought that was the child's mother.
Mm-hmm.
So he was talking to her, and she was answering questions like,
I'm going to pretend like
so
I'm
I
his
take a
child's mother.
picture when he was bending down, because I'm standing like right in front of him. So I take a picture of him bending down, and I say, okay, I'm going to get another one when he stands up. Well, I have a BlackBerry, and you have to wait like 30 seconds before you
Are
get
you
your
serious?
next picture. So I'm just holding it. I was like, wait. And he's looking at me like, you need to get another.
Get another.
That would
Right.
have been enough.
Tell him about the back of his hair.
Oh, it's completely like white.
Mm-hmm. You can see that he
It's
has
completely
aged.
white, and he's like a lot thinner too than you see on public, but still very handsome, very handsome, but very, very friendly. I mean, he came right over, but it was just kind of funny when everybody was just. I think we were just in shock because nobody tried to run up on him. Because I think we were all afraid we might get shot or something. Because, of that whole
Secret
situation.
Service, yeah.
I mean, but he was just standing there, and he was asking the lady, how old is your son? And she was like, 2. We were like, that's not her
Oh,
child.
the actress in me would have fainted. I would have fainted, and he have to give a mouth-to-mouth
CPR.
resuscitation.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we're going on a tear,
yeah, go
but I would have gotten mouth-to-mouth, and then I put my arms around. No, okay, all right.
Secret Service will pull you out
Right.
of
Yeah.
it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, sorry. That was a great honor, Cheryl.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did it. Now we have to get serious. Today, some news broke in the Renisha McBride incident. As you know, Renisha McBride was the young lady who was shot and killed by a homeowner when she went up on his porch and knocked on the door for help. It was early in the morning and everything. Could somebody else talk about this a little bit today?
Well, from the information that we have now, it appears that Ms. McBride had a car accident a few streets away from where she was actually shot, and that she walked to this home allegedly to receive some type of assistance, and that the homeowner shot her and unfortunately killed her. The initial information that was provided by her family indicated that she had been shot in the back of the head. However, when the autopsy reports came back, it was reported that she had been shot in the face, actually in the front. And even from viewing the home We haven't seen the homeowner yet, but there have been several reporting different news agencies that have gone to the home, and it appears that there was no bullet holes through the doors or anything like that. So apparently, we can conclude that the door had to be open.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
realize
I
that.
didn't realize
The,
that.
the gentleman also stated, I believe he's 54 years old, that he felt like Ms. McBride was intruding, that he was fearful that there was some type of intrusion, and then it was a statement that he said that he accidentally shot her. So there's a lot of information that we don't know, but it's interesting to me because if you're truly in fear for your life, it wasn't an accident. So what has happened today, Prosecutor Worthy has made a press conference indicating that he will be charged with second-degree murder as well as manslaughter, which is probably in the alternative, meaning that if the jury finds, once the evidence and testimony is presented, that there's not enough evidence for second-degree murder, that they can also find him guilty or not guilty of manslaughter. But it'll be very interesting as the information becomes clear, because right now we're just speculating as to what may or may not have happened, and there's a lot of unknown right now. There was a lot of, as Brenda was saying earlier, that there were some people that were outraged and upset because they had let out information indicating that through her toxicology reports that Ms. McBride was legally intoxicated. She was way over the legal limit of .08. I believe she blew like a .2 or blood
Yeah.
So,
was a .2.
so that was more like she was illegally intoxicated because she was only 19 years old, and the price. I mean, you're supposed to be 21 years old if you are going to be drinking. Also, they said she had marijuana in her system, which in a way, it's ridiculous that they said that, but in a way, I could see that almost helping the prosecution's case, because if she was like that, she was totally helpless. It seems like she was helpless, and
So you see that would help the prosecution, you believe?
it would help the prosecution, not the defense, this guy's defense, because with her being kind of out of it, what could
she's
she
more
do?
vulnerable,
What
yeah.
could she do? She was more vulnerable. She couldn't hurt anybody or anything like that.
You don't think so?
No,
Really?
well, no. I mean, if she were that 3 times the legal limit, she could barely do anything.
Well, it depends on the person. You can be 3 times the legal limit. You can be violent. You can be, seriously, everybody metabolizes alcohol differently. So the numbers don't tell us enough. It depends on the person, their weight, how they metabolize alcohol. Was she a regular drinker? Because there are people who can be, at that point she was, and they can be violent, they can be assaultive.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I was just thinking.
Yourself personally.
Oh, I couldn't
Yeah.
even be 1 point over the legal limit.
See, that's what makes the story even more interesting, because everyone at this point has formed some type of opinion either way. And as Dr. Rose has pointed out, just because she was over the legal limit and she was underage, one, doesn't give anyone the right to shoot her
Yeah,
in the face.
that was murder. That was
that
murder, pure and simple.
We don't know.
We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
we have a call
We
on
weren't
the
there.
line.
Up in the air with
Good
that.
afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello. Hello.
She's there. He's gonna.
Hello, how the panel doing?
Hi.
Fine.
And this what I want to ask y'all. Okay, what I'm glad about, I'm glad that he's not going to get away with that.
Me
And
too.
it's just not like that other man in that what's his name case?
Trayvon Martin.
What's his name?
George Zimmerman?
Yeah, like he just walking away. And y'all explain this. Ever since he won that case, he been involved in a whole lot of crime and getting away with it. Explain that to me, and I hang up. Y'all explain that to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, as I thought, as far as the Trayvon Martin case was concerned, that George Zimmerman seemed to be a person who was always getting in trouble anyway, and he had been enabled. And I think the court system enabled him again, but he was picked up. Well, not really picked up. He was stopped a couple of times for being drunk. I mean, driving fast, and also he went to his ex-wife's home and did some things.
Domestic,
Yeah.
violence.
Tiffany, why don't you think he was picked up and taken to jail?
Well,
That-
there's a lot of still media scrutiny surrounded by George Zimmerman. And even like we said now, because there's so much scrutiny surrounded by him as an individual, and take into consideration that from the last information that I heard, he is still being pursued as far from the federal government to still pursue charges against him as it relates to Trayvon Martin. So I think at this point, with everything still kind of up in the air, everyone's kind of treading on thin ice because they don't want it to be a situation where you're overzealous and you want to just prosecute him for something and anything, and then you're sloppy in the way that you collect your evidence, or something happens and he technically gets off again. And I want everyone to be mindful and clear. We do not know, we don't have a lot of information as it relates to Miss McBride. So this gentleman, though he is going to be charged, we were not there. And it was very interesting to me in the days that when it first happened, how, you know, people were making statements as to the car accident and what she did and how she did it, and that she was shot in the back of the head, but no one else was there.
Yeah.
So how could you be so detailed and have all of this information when you weren't actually there? And then surprisingly, 2 or 3 days later, I wake up and I'm watching the news and they say, in fact, it wasn't that she was shot in the back of the head, but she was shot in the face, which is a completely different scenario. She had to have been facing
Him.
this
Yes.
weapon
Not
as opposed
walking
to
away.
walking away. So that completely changes the scenario as to what happened. And as of right now, we really don't know what happened.
So true.
My goodness. Well, you know, and then they're also saying that it took her so long to get those few blocks from the accident. I heard that there were people who came out with that accident and tried to get her to stay. I don't know. Of course, I wasn't there. This is just something I heard on the radio.
Yeah, and we can, you know, draw an inference that she was probably disoriented,
Poor judgment.
poor judgment. She was fearful, nervous because she was underage and had been drinking, and now you're in an accident. But I don't know the severity of the accident. She could have been totally disoriented, which caused her to walk several blocks away from the scene. There were, you know, individuals talking and stating, well, if you were in a car accident and you were in need of help, why didn't she go to the nearest residence? Why didn't she walk so far away to ask for assistance? And those are just questions that we don't know, because as Dr. Rose has indicated, different things as far as drinking and marijuana and things like that, different substances
Have
affect
different,
people
yes.
differently. She could be a small framed young lady, but if she has a high tolerance for drinking, you know, what may have been something that would, you know, lay you out, Miss Perry, maybe she had a high tolerance. And it's not necessarily, you know, people were outraged at the fact that she was drinking and things like that came out. Understand that before this is all over, there's a lot more information that will be discussed and told as it relates to this young lady. So yes, he will be charged, but George Zimmerman was charged as well. So we have to, you know, take everything day by day, because a lot of information is still unknown at this point.
Well, what about the people who do compare this to the George Zimmerman case? I don't think this is quite like that.
It's not. It's more. It reminds me more of the Florida case of the gentleman that was in the car accident, and the policeman ended up killing him when he was going after the policeman, you know, for help, and
Right.
he felt threatened, and that policeman has been charged, and so he's awaiting trial or what have you. But you know, the comparison is because it's a white.
We don't know.
Well,
They
the
haven't-
guy-
That, I,
they
I haven't
oh,
seen the guy.
They
well, let me
haven't-
take that back.
Because
I'm just
somebody
assuming.
said
We're
he was
assuming.
Arabic at
Okay,
first,
we don't
and
know.
it's not an Arabic name. No,
And
some-
I guess we don't
They
know.
haven't showed him. So we really
But
don't know.
I
But
can say pretty much with a surety, he's not a black man.
but we don't know.
We
And
don't
see,
know
those
that.
are the things that we're speculating on, and we really don't
But
know
the only
this
reason
information
I say
yet.
that is because now we have, and this was one of the things I brought up the other day, all these civil rights groups coming in saying it was based on racism. So if it was based on racism, it's safe, but again, like you said, Tiffany, we don't know, to assume that this person was not black. But I think when you have these cases where you end up with a young person, young African-American person dead, and a person potentially, we don't know, is not of the African-American race, then that automatically comes into play. Was this a case of racism?
I just have to play devil's advocate. I want us to be enraged when two men come and shoot up a barber shop
Thank you.
with
Thank
small
you.
children
Thank you.
inside.
Thank you.
Where's the outrage
Well,
of
that's
that?
we're
There
going to
were
talk
children
about that.
inside
That's
the barber
that's
shop.
our next
Yeah.
story. That's our
Yes.
next subject. Where is the outrage? But just to kind of tie this up a bit, we send our condolences to Ms.
Definitely.
McBride's
Absolutely.
family. We really hate that this happened because there, but for the grace of God, it could have been any of us, any of our children. Because children, come on, tell me if any of you ever got drunk before you were 21. Did any of you ever drink?
Are you asking us that?
Yes, I'm asking you.
I do
I'm
not
asking-
recall.
I plead the fifth.
Come on.
I do not recall.
I mean, nobody remembers ever taking a drink before they turned 21.
Yeah, and we talked about this, I think, before the air too. You have to talk to your kids because
Right.
this is something that definitely. Now, the danger here is that she was not just drinking; she was driving, and there are reports that she was witnessed to be speeding down the street. Reports.
And what if she would have hit
Somebody else, it could have potentially been a car full of people.
We could
that
sit
were-
here all day and speculate, but even with her smoking marijuana, even with her being 19 and being inebriated, none of that is justification for
Oh,
someone.
absolutely not.
Absolutely.
We're not, Tiffany. We're not
I get
saying
it, but
that.
what I'm also saying too is just like Prosecutor Worthy indicated, you do not have a duty to retreat in your home. There was first information indicating that her body was found in a field somewhere, and then there was information that her body was right outside. It's as the details and the evidence unfolds, I'm going to find this case to be extremely interesting because, as I indicated, one of the first things that I paid attention to was there wasn't a bullet hole in the door or the screen door. So the door had to have been open, just from my logical inference.
And was
With-
this the news that showed pictures?
Yeah, well, actually,
Well,
a
you've
couple of the
seen the
reporters
house
have
on
gone
the
up to the
news.
house and tried to knock on the door to try to get a response from someone.
So no
but
chance
one
that
ever
it could
came
have
to
been
the door.
repaired or anything.
It was so close in time as to when it happened. Once again, maybe. We don't know. Maybe this person had a spare door somewhere. We don't know. But from the information that just from the news, and once again, the news doesn't always get it right. Love
I
you guys
tell you.
dearly. But, even we have to be careful and mindful from the information that we receive, even on the news. As indicated once again, it was first reported that she was shot in the back of the head, and then it was later retracted and stated
Yeah.
that she was shot in the face.
Blew that child's face off. And I mean, if they would have come back and said they're not going to charge him, that would have been that would have been too crazy. But let the law play it out, right,
Definitely.
Tiffany? And I mean, what would you have done? I know if somebody was at my door at that time, I would have called the police.
I would have called the police.
Yeah, I don't think I would have
Don't answer
answered.
the door.
I would have answered. I would have just peeked out.
Yeah.
See,
Especially if you thought someone was intruding. And they definitely did report that there was no sign of forced entry or anything
Right.
like that as it relates to the door.
So even if she was saying help or some, even if she was saying that, whoever the guy was, he didn't have to open the door. He still could have called the police. I mean, I don't remember hearing a record of 911 being called to say there's someone at my door.
Yeah, but definitely not open your door. I had a woman years ago when I lived in Detroit bang on my door in despair about 2:30 in the morning and said her boyfriend had just beaten her up and she wanted to come in. Now, I had an enclosed porch. She was welcome to stay on that porch, and I called the police, but I was not opening that door for her
Absolutely.
at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you could sit with the gun on your lap, but don't open that door. Do not open that door. Okay, violence in Detroit, and Tiffany, who brought it up? I guess Tiffany, and that was something I wanted to say. And a family member of the Perrymans was one of those killed in the barbershop shooting. Yes, Kevin Perryman. He was 40 years old. He was killed, and that was my father-in-law's great nephew, and it was just a shame. There were children in that barbershop. There were people in there who just were there to get a haircut. There were people in there in the front of the barbershop just to get a haircut, but more than that, just the barbershop. A few days after, there was a triple killing. There's so many killings, Where are the civil rights leaders or people leaders to get us to stop killing each other? And a lot of people say there's no, well, the black on black crime, they've taken it as the norm, so there's not enough outrage when it comes to that. Also, when we have, for example, people are saying, well, in the white community, they do a lot of things in the white community too, but does that excuse us? I don't think that excuses us. You know, I mean, just because they have crime out there, we have had so much crime. I mean, why do we solve our issues by killing one another? That is really ridiculous. And I think that, I mean, the callousness, when people are actually sitting up there and they are coming into a building, spraying a building with the AK-47, and somebody says to me, they say, well, we got to search where they got the guns. Well, I think it's beyond that right now.
Yeah.
What do you all think?
It's absolutely, you know, I think I messaged you the article when I read it of the Free Press, because I feel just the way you feel. It's amazing when there is a crime where it's not black on black crime, all of a sudden you have the influx of civil rights groups and people picketing, demanding justice. But when it's black on black, it's like we've come to a point where we accept, oh, that's the norm. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's the norm. And I just don't buy that. I mean, it really boils me. And it's such a contradiction. You know, being an African-American woman, it's a contradiction. And it embarrasses me as an African-American woman that, you know, my people don't have just as much outrage over a barbershop getting shot up than...
They don't think that a life is worth anything. It's just become, it's an uncomfortable position, I mean, situation that seems to have become the comfort zone for people.
You know, if you don't value your life, you're not going to have value for others. And that gets into the psychology of it. And we can talk about that in another show, but absolutely it's become, just like you said, the comfort, the norm, to be expected, acceptable, but someone else coming in.
It is not acceptable. It is not acceptable. And I just cannot go with this whole thing about the suburbs and this and that. What about the quality of life here? Well,
Yeah.
Tiffany,
It is just absolutely ridiculous because guns don't kill people, people kill people. It's absolutely outrageous to think that you could be sitting in a restaurant and someone just start shooting at each other. The Benihana situation, and that was
what
in
exactly
Dearborn.
happened there? I just heard the edge of that.
There were two men that got into an altercation, and weapons were drawn by both, as it was reported, and they were firing. They shot at each other inside Benihana's, and what is even more troubling is that the restaurant was full. There were people
Oh, my God.
on both sides that knew both gentlemen, and no one is stating anything. So that makes it even harder for the police because the people that were actually there to witness what was going on are not making any statements or not saying actually what happened.
So it continues.
So it continues because we are not being accountable for our own actions until it happens to someone that you care about. You know, there was a situation where there was a young man, teenager, he carjacked an individual right on Evergreen at the gas station on the 6 Mile area, and just so by chance he carjacked this man with a gun, and the gentleman had a license to carry a CPO. He had his weapon on him. He fired, and he ended up shooting and killing this young man. His parents and his siblings, his family were outraged, and they were all at the gas station, and they were screaming and hollering, he didn't have to do that. Why did he shoot him? But no one ever stopped to think, this young man just pulled a weapon on him and threatened his life. They completely disregarded the initial situation altogether, and that's where the problem is. It all starts at home. There's no level of respect or care for, like you said, for your own life, not to mention anyone else's. Anytime someone can walk to a gas station and assault an elderly person, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And we have to start taking accountability and being accountable for our own actions, for those people around us, and saying enough is enough. As Ms. Perriman just indicated, there but for the grace of God go I. You could have been sitting at that Benihana's, and bullets don't have names on them. When is enough enough? And it's just completely out of hand. And there's only so much that the police can do. The police can't find these individuals, and the prosecutors can't prosecute them because you're choosing not to say anything, because you want to take it out to the streets and then handle it your own way. And then the next thing we know, we look on the news and another child has been shot because it was gunfire and retaliation. It's just ridiculous.
But it's become the norm, and that's just the way to handle disputes. And it's no way, you know, as a psychologist, it sounds disheartening, but when you have a person that does not value their life, they're not going to value yours. So don't be shocked. And there are a lot of people like that walking around day in and day out. It's the reality, unfortunately. And it starts with, you know, it goes to such a smaller micro level that you have to get to really stop all of this foolishness, because it goes to just really retraining the belief system, the value system that a lot of these people who don't have a problem shooting up a barbershop.
We have a call. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon again, Queens.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Jeff.
I like to say this real quickly. The woman, and as the sister said on the end about it starting in the family, the value of a woman in the world is so important today. Really, you don't know how valuable each and every one of you really are. In other words, when the God created himself, after he created himself, he created woman next. In other words, the woman didn't come from a man's rib. The woman understand, is God's co-helper in the creation of life. And you are so important with what's going on today that a nation, and certain people, you hear people say in certain countries, they say, when you educate a man, you educate an individual. But when you educate the female, you educate the nation. You judge the nation by its woman. And the black woman's role is so important today that when you can't talk about God and not talk about the black woman, you are so important. And when we begin to understand how valuable you really are, things will change, because change is not going to come about unless the black woman wake up and recognize what her true role is on this planet or whatever today. Because when you talk about God, you can't not talk about the black woman.
Well, the black woman or women, they really have such an impact on the family, be it whether you're a mother, whether you're an auntie, whether you're a grandmother, whether the woman has more of a world view.
You're the first lawyer. You're the first dietitian. You're the first social worker. You're the first everything when rearing children.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've had to be Solomon too. You've had to, try what's fair. I always believe that when you teach your children, you're teaching your grandchildren, because
you're absolutely right.
What you teach is handed down. It's very, very important. I've seen it in action. And we are seeing it in action too with what's going on in society. Absolutely. Because there are a lot of women who are getting to be very reckless, things that women didn't used to do. Mm-hmm. Isn't that true?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a science to producing children, and it don't start after a child is born, but it starts actually in the womb. And when women conceive, intelligence is there in the womb. And if you want to rear a child up properly, understand, whatever you want that child to be, you study in those fields, understand, and it would implant on those children's brain right in the womb of a female. And it's been studied. There was a Japanese woman over in Japan that produced 3 geniuses from a womb.
Excuse me, somebody
and she talked about how she did it.
Excuse me, someone called and I accidentally clicked them off. Please call back again. Thank you so much, Brother Jeff. That was really wise.
Have a blessed day and have a safe
Thank
weekend.
You too.
That person who just called, oh, thank you. Good afternoon. Hello? Hello, turn your TV down or whatever. Hello? Hello?
She'll call back.
If you're, hello? Oh, okay. I don't know who that was. So anyway, so as far as the the crime here, I think the lawlessness, people don't have fear either. I mean, it used to be fear of the police, fear of somebody. I was just in fear of my mother. What would my mother say? No, seriously.
I know.
Do you all feel?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the scary part. You know, that's you remember the Mad Max Thunderdome movies or what have you, when you get a society where people just aren't fearful and they don't value their life. So if they get caught up in the crossfire, it's just part of, par for course. Just a dangerous reality to live in.
Well, it's so unfortunate that a lot of times, I remember when I was in that car accident when I was 18, I was in that car accident and the guy came to the side of the road because the accident happened on 94, and he said, listen, I know who you are. You live across the hall from my girlfriend. I'd like to call your mother. And since I was sneaking home, when he said, I'd like to call your mother, what's her number? I laid on the ground, critically hurt, thinking twice. I was scared. I mean, I would, I take the consequences rather than tell my mother. And didn't you have a fear of doing something wrong?
Yes, all the time. From my mother and her friends.
Oh, yeah, that extended family, the
Yes.
neighborhood. Now the neighbors are afraid to tell
Yeah.
on the kids, don't you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. There was always somebody watching. Always.
And people are watching now, they just don't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tiffany, I know your mother, and I know she would talk and talk and talk.
Oh, we wouldn't get enough. It was, just get close enough to her, especially if you were out. I remember my brother and I would act up in the mall, and she would just wait till you got close enough to her, and she'd just pinch and twin. Turn that pinch going. Oh, Lord. you learn. But even now, and I'm an adult, I'm married, but there's still a level of respect and somewhat fear because you don't want to do anything that would cause shame or embarrass or
Yes.
get your parents upset. They don't have that. Kids now do not have that same type of upbringing. It was something going around on Facebook the other day, and it was old. I believe it was from like Jenny Jones, and it was about kids who were bad, and they had a boot camp sergeant that was, in their face and fussing and screaming at him, and there was a little boy, and he was, all in his face and getting tough with him, and he said, would you like for me to be your dad? Do you want me to come and stay with you for the next 8 days? And the average kid would have said no, and this young boy said yes, and it caught the drill sergeant completely off guard, and he said, what? He said, well, why? And the little boy said, because I don't have a dad.
Oh.
And the drill sergeant literally had to walk this young man off the stage because it affected him
Yeah.
so much that, he didn't anticipate or expect this young man to respond like that. And he was yearning for someone to tell him no and show him the right way to do things.
Well, my mother said that she thinks they should take all the criminals and drop them off on an island and then just drop the food. No, seriously. I mean, that was her, they need to drop them off somewhere because right now they don't have any fear. That they still haven't really caught the person who shot up the barbershop. They haven't caught the person who killed the young lady down at Wayne State, the young law student. And now they're saying there might have been someone they know. Of course, we don't know everything that the police know. You know that. We don't know. And it's unfortunate that I didn't get a chance. I don't know, something's flying around the studio. We didn't get a chance today to go into our other subject matters because Anthony Bourdain did a cooking show on Detroit. And I finally saw it, and I did not like it. And my thing is, why would you allow yourself to walk around with Charlie LaDuff? Charlie LaDuff, people don't know. He mocks the city. People say they love Charlie LaDuff. I have major issues with him.
But see, the issue that I took with that was here you have a nationally syndicated program, and you are a part of the city. So instead of showing him that there are nice places and nice areas in the city of Detroit, this is what you chose to expose him to and what you
Right. Well, we have a quick call. We have about 30 seconds. Hello, caller. May I have your name? Hello? Hello? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Well, yes, you're absolutely right. But Charlie LaDuff has done this on many levels. He has done it on many levels. And I guess Channel 2 keeps him for ratings or something like that. But I just don't like his why just him? Why not a Luther Keith, who has Rise Detroit, the neighborhoods? He knows the neighborhoods like the back of his hand. Why didn't they show Eastern Market?
Yeah.
Why didn't they show a lot of the places that are doing so well, the Avenue of Fashion? I mean, just different places.
Absolutely. What did you see the clip from Channel 2? Because Murray Feldman,
he
and Charlie LaDuff went at it.
I
and
saw
let it
that.
rip,
I saw
because
that.
of that.
Oh, I didn't
Because
see that. I'm
Murray
gonna have to take a look at that.
You know, a lot of people are telling Anthony Bourdain, and I love his show. I watch his show every night, and I was so disappointed. I
Right.
was so looking forward to the Detroit
Right.
show.
I didn't like that.
But it was a
Well,
big, huge
We
disappointment.
gotta go. I mean, I
no,
tell you,
it
this is the fastest hour in television, faster even than Scandal. Well, that's another story. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the ladies will be back next week, and we will continue our conversation because we have another one about our hidden stash. See you next week.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.